Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is withdraw, and this verb was suggested by the viewer Maria Clara. So, Maria Clara, my gratitude for another great idea. Now, let's begin our discussion by looking at some of the definitions or the ways that we use the verb withdraw. The first way you might hear it is in connection to banking. So, anytime you're taking money out of an account. You might hear this used in connection to other accounts or finances, but each time, just know money is coming out of the account. A second way to use the verb withdraw means to take back or to take away something that has been bestowed or given, proposed, or used. One common way that I see this second definition being used is to describe the action of taking back support. So someone might say they have withdrawn support for particular legislation or maybe even support for a particular candidate or a country. So lots of different options there. A third way you might encounter the verb withdraw means to remove or recall some type of motion or amendment from consideration. So here, someone has put forth an idea, but after maybe other negotiations, other consideration, they are now removing it. A fourth way you might encounter the verb withdraw can mean to leave or to cause someone or something to leave a place or leave a particular situation. Now, in just a moment, we're going to be looking at even more ways to use this verb, but these are kind of our four basic ways to use it. What you should know right now as well is that withdraw is an irregular verb. If you want to make the progressive form of this verb, all you need to do is add ing. That forms withdrawing. The past tense form of this verb is going to require spelling change. So we're going to change the A to an E, and we're going to make a long U sound as we say the past tense form of this verb. It's withdrew. Withdrew. The participle form of our verb requires another spelling change. We're going to go back to an A, and then we're going to have W-N, and we're going to pronounce that withdrawn. Okay? Now, the verb here follows the same pattern as the verb draw. It is also drew and drawn as are other forms of the verb. Now, let's take a look at some phrasal verbs with withdraw. The first one you might encounter is the phrasal verb withdraw from. This phrasal verb can have so many different meanings. We're going to discuss 6 of them today. The first way to use withdraw from can mean to retract or shrink back from someone or something. An example of this in a sentence might be, the shy dog withdrew from the visitor's outstretched hand. So here, maybe we're describing someone who wants to pet a dog, right? But this dog, right, kind of moves itself back. This sentence is an example of the simple past tense. A second way to use withdraw from can mean to depart, retreat, or retire from something, and it's commonly used when someone wants to rest. An example of this, she will withdraw from the noisy party if she starts to feel a migraine. This is a way to describe a rather severe headache. This is also an example of the simple future, will withdraw from, right? So it's just another way of saying she's going to leave and rest if she starts to feel unwell. A third way to use withdraw from means to stop being associated with a group or activity. It could also mean to stop active participation in something. Here's another example. He withdrew from the tournament with a knee injury. That's another simple past tense sentence. I feel like I hear this used quite frequently in the sport of tennis. Various athletes plan to compete, maybe even start a tournament, and at times, unfortunately, they will be unable to continue. So they're going to end their active participation. A fourth way to use withdraw from can mean to take someone or something out or away from something else. This could go back to our first definition. So my question here was, who has withdrawn $100 from the account? Again, that idea, taking something out. This is an example of the present perfect, right? So we're not exactly sure when this action was completed. We're on to our fifth way to use withdraw from, and that can mean to cause someone or force someone or something to depart, to retreat, or to flee, run away from some place. An example of how you might have heard this used in the last week: President Assad has withdrawn from Syria. Right? He fled. He, I believe, has taken up residence in Russia now. Right? Some would say the rebel forces, right, caused him to depart the country. A sixth way to use withdraw from means to remove someone or something from active consideration. Kind of goes back to, I think that was the third definition we talked about earlier. That candidate will withdraw from the race later today. There's an example of a simple future with will there. So someone is saying, I'm removing myself from even being considered for this particular elected office. The next phrasal verb you might encounter is to withdraw into. And there are two main ways that this phrasal verb gets used. The first means to retreat, retract, or shrink back into some place. An example of this: the turtle withdraws into its shell when it feels threatened. This is an example of a simple past tense sentence where we're describing the habit of a turtle, right? It kind of shrinks into or inside its shell. A second way to use withdraw into means to pull or retract something back into something else. An example of this: the cat withdrew its claws into its toes to move silently. That last sentence is another example of the simple past tense, right? So kind of the claws come out, right, of its toes, if you can imagine, and then the idea of them coming back in or retracting. Now, let's spend just a moment looking at some words that are related to our verb withdraw. The first word we're going to discuss today is the noun form of the word withdrawal. Okay? This noun can have several different meanings, just like our verb did earlier. So one way to use that noun is to talk about the action of withdrawing something. And again, this could be connected to really any of the definitions we spoke of earlier. So an example of here might be, what's their plan for the withdrawal of troops? Right? So that idea of taking something out, removing here military forces from a particular place. A second way to use withdrawal is specific to the act of taking money out of an account. An example of this might be, you are permitted 6 withdrawals per month from this savings account. So many banks in the United States have a rule very similar to this. And again, the idea is that you can take money out on 6 different occasions, doesn't matter how much, but after 6, you might have to pay another fee, or you might not be permitted until the next calendar month. Another way to use the noun withdraw is to actually just refer to the sum of money that has been taken out of an account. So you might hear somebody say they made a $500 cash withdrawal, right? So again, just talking about that specific sum of money. A fourth way you might encounter the noun withdraw means the action of ceasing to participate in an activity. An example of this: his withdrawal from the course came after the first exam. This is something that's quite common in American colleges and universities. There are different policies as to when you are permitted to kind of decide, this is not the course for me, especially if it's connected to how much money or will you get any money back after you have paid for that particular course. I've got just a couple more related things for us to discuss. Something else you might encounter is withdrawal symptoms. And you might hear this used in a sort of health and wellness related sphere, we might say. So this is the unpleasant physical reaction that generally accompanies the process of stopping taking a particular drug. Most commonly we use it with illegal or addictive drugs, but you might also hear it used with certain medication as well. So an example of this phrase in a sentence is, are there things he can do or take to minimize the withdrawal symptoms? Right? So kind of where the body starts to have these really negative physical reactions. I've read that on some occasions maybe it's sweating or sort of feeling nauseated, feeling like one is going to be physically ill. And I'm certain there are many others, but just a couple for an example. The last word we'll discuss today is the adjective withdrawn. Generally, when people use this, they're describing someone that really doesn't want to communicate with other people. Can be temporary. It could last a little more longer, but an example of this in a sentence might be, he became even more withdrawn after his wife's death. So here, we might have already had someone who wasn't very social, wasn't getting out a lot, but now he's communicating even less after this very sad event. Well, I hope this video has helped you better understand the verb withdraw. Again, my thanks to Maria Clara for suggesting today's verb. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.